Hi, this is a quick demonstration of GVOrbit's map view screen creation. This is the workflow screen of GVOrbit client. We can see it's separated into three main sections. We have a configuration section, a control section, and a monitoring section. We're going to be concentrating on making some monitoring screens, but we're going to use some of the control aspects on those monitoring screens. We're going to make a very quick screen to show how easy it is to make a custom routing panel for a user. So let's jump in. At the bottom we can come to screens. We can create a new screen here. I'm going to call it test. Now I already have a file called test. In this instance, that's okay for me to overwrite that, so I'm going to go ahead and click yes. Okay, this is our screen file, the canvas for making the screen layout. We can see it's a screen file by the extension SCHX, and we can see that we're currently in edit mode as opposed to run mode because our pencil and ruler icon is blue here. We want to go back to the workflow just quickly to have a look at some of those control elements I talked about. We're going to come to the bulk router, and here we can see all of the sources and destinations on my small lab system. However, I'm going to filter those down a little smaller so that we can just see a simple 10 by 10 SDI router. We could select a whole range of sources and destinations. In this case, I've held down the shift key and selected the first destination and the last destination. We could also custom select in those ranges by holding down the control key to pick destinations and sources we want. In this instance, I only want to give the user control of router output 1 and router output 2, but I actually want to give them control of all sources into those destinations. So I use the shift key again to highlight them all. If we look at the bottom of the screen, we can see that this has automatically highlighted all of the levels for the destination and the source. Now we could use these in our demonstration, but for the ease of the demo screen, I'm just going to deselect them now using these buttons here. Now I right click anywhere on the items I've selected and click copy as widgets. Come back to our test screen we're creating and quite simply paste them. Straight away we have some control. Let's go into run mode, and we can see quite quickly that we can control our router. Let's make this a little nicer to view for the user. Let's either right click and group, or we can control G to group, control shift G to ungroup. I'm going to do the same with the destinations as well. We're going to make our groups the same size. We can either do both width or height. In this instance, I'm just going to do height. Maybe make that one a little bit wider for freehand as well. Now, this looks a bit untidy. We've got these 10 sources that are all a bit of a gap there at the bottom. So let's change our layout in the properties section. Let's change it to a grid with 2 columns and a nice spacing of 2 pixels. And we'll do the same with the destinations. We'll make those a vertical stack in this case and set the spacing the same so that when we go back into run mode, we have a nicely laid out router panel for the user. So they can switch between destinations they want to control, and they can deselect them as well. There's also a lock feature built in, so they can't do anything to the screen. We can also apply custom lock buttons as well if we want to make a lock on a particular destination. We're not going to go into that today. We're just going to keep this a nice simple screen. What about if they want to monitor something as well? Well, maybe they've got a clip player and amp that they want to see. They want to see and see the status of it and maybe have some control of it. One way of doing that is a web viewer. So at the bottom of the screen here we have the widgets. We're going to grab a web widget, make that nice and big on the side, and just with a pre-prepared URL, I'm going to edit that. While I've got this selected, I'm going to edit the properties, the URL there, and simply press enter, and we should load the URL here. Now, I was already logged into AMP, so my username and password already loaded the page. However, if not, you would need to, like you would in a normal web browser. Great, we've got some control. That's fantastic. The user can control that straight off if they want to, or not. What about if they want to see the status of what the clip player is doing? I mean, here we can see the play, pause, and the loop functionality and load different things. But what if there's an actual problem with the clip player? We wouldn't necessarily see that from this embedded control screen. So let's have a look at our alarms features. We have a network tree here, a network window, which gives us all of the things that GVOrbit is currently monitoring. And in this instance, I want to know about an AMP workload. So let's find the AMP workloads on the node that on the fabric that I'm running. We have the nodes monitored here as well, but this is a particular AMP fabric, and then we are grouped by workload type. So let's expand the Donstai Clip Player HD, and we see that our clip player here currently has a warning. Let's drag that onto the screen and see what happens. We can create a single tally. This gives us some warning about what the clip player is doing. We know there's a warning. It's not an error, but there's a warning. That gives us some overall status, but maybe we need some greater granularity of information about what is happening here. We right click and click alarm list. We see here we have this full alarm list of everything that's happening on that particular workload. We can see the overall state of the unit currently in our warning, and we can see what contributes to it as well. We have this alarm transport state / state, and it's currently saying that it's pause, and GVOrbit has decided to detect this as a warning. So let's drag that onto our screen here. We've got some options. We can create a label, we can create a single tally, or we can create a single stateful label. A single label would just be using the alarm header and will just give us the value of that alarm header. A single tally would use the status of that alarm header in a similar icon to this one here that changes depending on the state. And then we can have a single stateful label, which is a kind of combination of the two. We get the label, which gives us the information, and we also get the state. And instead of the state being an icon like this, we now pass the color into the value. So let's go for that option, a single stateful label. Now it's a bit hard to see on this dark background that I've got here with this text, so we'll change the text here to this nice pink. We can see that while we're in edit mode, but this will become clear in run mode that we don't actually need to see that at all. So let's grab another label just to put above it, and we're going to put the same label header. So I've right clicked on the alarm header, gone to copy and header, and I'm going to put that in here as well, just so that we can remind our user that the alarm they're going to be looking at is the transport state. Let's align those nicely, group them, and then align all of these along the bottom with these handy buttons here to make things nice and tidy. Let's have a look what that looks like. Now we can see that our transport state is in pause, and it's making our entire unit go into this warning triangle state. Let's unpause the clip player. We see we're going to get a nice green circle, and our transport state has gone to the value of play, and we see the color in the text as well. Maybe this window here, this web view, is actually looking at something else like a flow monitor, and we actually just want to give the user a single control over the play pause of the workload. Let's add a button. Come back to the edit mode. Come to the widgets at the bottom. We're going to select this button icon. We're going to have this button here. Let's give it some nice color. We've got some defaults available. We'll give it a control default. Let's change the label to be play pause. We can see what the button should be doing. Let's make it the same width. Well, and align them. Now the button alone won't do very much, so we need to come into GVOrbit's Behaviors and Bindings editor. While we have the button highlighted, we can come to the button properties and click on this cog with a pencil icon. This opens a separate workspace down the bottom of the screen, which is where we edit behaviors and bindings. Behaviors and bindings are GVOrbit's way of making complex actions very simply in a nice graphical interface. no need for complex scripting, no need to be able to code. We should be able to do this all with this lovely graphical interface. So let's pick an AMP workload control behavior, because that's what we want to do. We want to control an AMP workload. Instantly we get the behavior in green, and we get these two bindings added as well. We'll come back to the bindings in a bit. One thing to point out, bindings can only go between behaviors and widgets, or behaviors and behaviors. Bindings can never go straight to other bindings. So we'll click on our AMP workload control, we'll double click, and we see here it all looks quite blank. Let's copy the name of our clip player and pop that in the workload name. Press enter. We instantly see we get the workload ID populated. Out of interest, we can also enter it in this way here with the workload ID, and we get the name. We see listed here the application type. You can't change this, but it just tells us and confirms to us that this is a clip player that we want. And then we have some command options. Now these are all the different command schemas that are available via AMP control, and they're automatically pulled into GBorbit so that we can control them instantly. For example, if we wanted to change the wanted to add an option to go to start, or go to start at, or stop at, we have various different options to do that. So let's just have a look at stop at. We see here that the bindings have updated, and importantly this JSON binding has updated and has given us an option to be able to give the stop commands at a value of now. Now obviously we could change that value, we could use other behaviors to bind it into this binding and be able to have other control aspects entering into this button play. However, what we wanted to do was play pause. So let's come and find play pause from our list. Note that the JSON binding is automatically updated. The schema for play pause just needs a empty array, so there is nothing being sent from our JSON binding. We see here as well we have a test mode. Similar to our run mode here, we have a test mode which is pencil and ruler, but we're not going to use that. We're going to go straight away to our run mode, save the changes, press our play pause button, and straight away we've controlled the clip player.